Which brings us to the question, why? Why would Alec Murdaugh on June 7th execute his son Paul and his wife Maggie, who he adored and loved? Why? The state's theory is that that it was a storm a-coming, clouds are arising, and that his financial house of cards is about to collapse and he's about to be exposed. And because of that, he does what every rational person would do: go kill your wife and son. That is their theory of motive. That is their theory of motive. And it worked too, by the way, because he killed his wife and son. Guess what? Jeannie Seconder quit asking questions for a few weeks. Oh, in the boating case, that won't be worth anything now that his wife and son have been murdered, because he's sympathetic. Have you heard such? One thing Mr. Waters and I agree on is the best thing about jurors is you bring your common sense in here and you use your common sense. And that's what it's all about. That's what your collective wisdom. And just collectively think, individually think, what kind of sense does that make? Alex, his financial house is a wreck. He's stealing money from clients. He's got to produce a financial statement, maybe, in a hearing coming up. And his dad goes back in the hospital that day. His dad goes back in the hospital that day, and he ultimately dies a few days later. Okay. So I get a call. Jeannie comes in. My dad's going to the hospital. Paul's coming home. That'd be a good time to kill Paul, wouldn't it? That is their theory of the case. And if you don't accept that beyond a reasonable doubt, ladies and gentlemen, I submit the verdict has to be not guilty. Because there's no reason for him to do it. No reason whatsoever. Now, you've heard a lot of testimony about these financial crimes, misdeeds, and he told you he did it. He told you he did it to support a very expensive drug habit, and none of that's an excuse, but he is an addict. And addiction is real, and addicts lie, addicts cheat, addicts steal to keep getting their drug. The evidence was permitted in this case for you to hear solely to consider, did he murder his wife and son because he had this storm a-coming, that he was going to be exposed? Is that why he murdered? That's what they say. That's why he murdered. And that's why you're allowed to consider it. Now, Judge Newman in his jury instructions will tell you that's all you can consider it for. You can't consider it by saying, man, I never knew he could do that. So if he could do that, he must be able to do the most heinous crimes in the world. Kill his wife and son, execute him style. That's a no-no use of that evidence. The only permissible use of the evidence is that sufficient provocation, motive for him to kill his wife and son? Is it sufficient motive, not provocation? And the evidence in the case is that there was no impending financial doom on June 7th. June 7th was a day which frankly was no different than any other day in the frenetic lifestyle of Alec Murdaugh. He had so many balls in the air, and he even forgot his paralegal's name, and I apologize to her. I think Christy. She said he would come in like a Tasmanian devil. I mean, he was frenetic. And they were on to this $792,000 fee in the Ferris case, and they were asking questions at Chris Wilson's office. But the reason they weren't concerned that he was stealing money. They were concerned that he was sheltering money, trying to hide it from being disclosed in the boating litigation when she was a defendant. And they didn't want any part of that. And that situation with the boating, with the Ferris fee, as Ms. Seckinger, Jeannie Seckinger said, that was a one-off. That was completely on its own, different type conduct than all the other stuff that you heard about. That was a one-off. And what happened on June 7th? She says, I'm in his office, and he gets a phone call that his dad's put back in the hospital. And she thinks that he told her it was terminal. He may have, I don't know, but his dad is put back in the hospital. He wasn't terminal that day, but the next day he got the terminal diagnosis. Any event, she takes off her CFO hat and puts on her mama bear hat and hugs him and a friend hat and their theory is he slaughters Maggie and Paul to buy time from her investigation. That is it. That is their theory. That is their theory. And it's totally fabricated. They've got no evidence of that. There's no evidence that Maggie was on to his financial misdeeds. There's no evidence that she was about to blow the whistle on him. There's no evidence that he had a $20 million life insurance policy on her, and that if he murdered her, that he could get out of financial bond. None of that. None of that. And I asked Ms. Secretary, how long of a delay did that buy Alec? Well, month maybe? A month? A month? That's their theory. That's what their case is built upon. And then this motions hearing is, there's a motions hearing scheduled for Thursday. It had previously been scheduled 2 other times. And it was continued at the last minute on the other occasions because 2 of the lawyers had cancer and were receiving treatments. But it wasn't sure it was going to be continued previously. Did he go murder anybody, to get out from under those prior hearings? No. This had nothing to do with it. And, so they brought the plaintiff's lawyer in. He's an excellent lawyer, and he's, like any plaintiff's lawyer. I'm going to clean his clock. I'm going to take everything he's got. That's what they all say. So then we had to bring the defense lawyer in to say, that was a negligent parenting case, and it wasn't worth the paper it was written on. Folks, that's what we are in the murder case, and that's what we're having to deal with because that is their theory of motive. But even if the financial day of reckoning was impending, if it was right there, Alec would not have killed the people he loved the most in the world. There's no evidence that he would do that. We do have evidence of what he would do and did do. And if you'll pull up Defense Exhibit 125, which is in evidence. On September 2nd, 3rd, 4th, I forget the date. This is the Labor Day weekend. He gets his drug dealer, Curtis Eddie Smith, to shoot him in the head so he couldn't go on because it was all going to come crashing down and he had a big life insurance policy. So when Alex is at financial collapse, he doesn't go kill somebody else. He tries to end it himself. This is a natural response. You don't want anybody to do it. But people kill themselves from being exposed. Don't kill their wife they adore, son, the apple of his eye, as some people have said. That's not. That is, I don't have the adjective for that. That is so outlandish. I don't have a word for it. Totally illogical, irrational, and insane. Those are words I wrote down. For someone to kill their loved ones when their criminal conduct is being exposed. So, You can take that now. Yeah, thank you, Doug. Yesterday we heard a lot from Mr. Waters. And I've been in Mr. Waters' position. As I explained, I was a federal prosecutor for a number of years. I've been a state prosecutor, part-time mostly. And I've done his job. It's a very rewarding job. And I hold him and I hold his office in very high esteem. But there just sometimes folks just get caught up in a case, they get a desire to win, they get so intoxicated by the attention that's brought on by the case that they start sort of a win at all cost approach. And I'm going to go through some things that Mr. Waters stated to you that just aren't facts and aren't supported by the facts and the evidence that you heard. And before I do that, I want to give you a cautionary statement. We lawyers aren't witnesses. I didn't take an oath to stand up here and talk to you. I have ethical obligations about what I can say and limitations under the rules, but I'm not a witness. I'm here to talk to you about the evidence. And the same applies to Mr. Waters. You decide what the evidence is. You decide. And
further, we're going to take a short break for about 10 minutes. Please do not discuss the case.